Said, we are a political polling firm, and we do domestic and international work, and some corporate work and organization work. And we have a giant base of clients who've been around. We've been around for 30 years. And as you can see, and bottom here said smarter, faster, and committed. And that means that our 30 years of experience in data has to be able to transfer from our existing environment, which is it's a language called Oscar, it's a scripting environment, and that has to be able to transfer over into the Askia system. So we use design, we use tools and analyze, and we use SURF as well to try to migrate all of that data over. We're still in the middle of the process, and a lot of what we're trying to do is making it that the 1,000 or so clients and jobs worth of data can come over and not have any data loss. It's funny being here listening to people talk about 6-month surveys and surveys and just giant brand surveys, because what we do is once October rolls around, we're going to be working every single night when data dials to could be 5 surveys a night. When it's finished, we have to be able to wait and run those surveys immediately, because the clients are going to be acting on that information possibly that night, more likely the next morning, and we've got to be able to analyze it that quickly. And with all the surveys we do, if we're doing 20 surveys a week in October, we need to be able to bring it all together. And we need to be able to have, we're now at a 7-man team, and the 7 of us have to be able to put together all of the work in analyze and design that meets all of the needs that we have for all of those clients, and quickly and accurately, and not have any worries that this is going to go wrong. As I say, if it's not fast and accurate, we're not helping anyone. And given the importance of a lot of what we do, we take a lot of pride in being able to help. We did not switch over to Askia because we wanted to change our output. We're largely cross-tabs. I'm really impressed by what I've seen today. We're using really fancy charts and flash applications. But the heart of our business and the heart of our department is cross-tabs, and is being able to just display the raw numbers, not so raw fashion. So our partners really like what they do, and they really care about how it looks, and they're not looking to change it. So the solutions that we've come up with, and I'm going to show you these after I go over them here. We utilize the design library, which we've always used it in, and with Design 5.2, we've really been able to use it in a different way that is really been very effective to be repeatable and to minimize the errors. I don't know how many people are using the pay structure, but we found it incredibly valuable. And part of what our business is that we could ask, if we're doing the Michigan State Legislature, we could be running virtually the same survey, but with different names and different messages in 20 districts. And we want to be able to replicate that very easily, and replicate all of that programming and use it as quickly and easily as you can. When we have standard ways of doing things. So the pay structure, we have the name-based method that if you have a question called gender and a question called age in your survey, you can instantly hit copy pay structure, and gender age is suddenly in your survey the way we always want it. And then we have the remote-based method that if you have the questions lined up the right way, you can just copy it, hit paste structure, and suddenly you have new questions formed that are routed properly and have the names that are based somewhat on the punches and somewhat on your existing structure. And it's been awfully valuable, and especially for our data migration, it's going to be important so that we don't have to spend hours and hours on every single survey that we move over. And then we go over to analyze, and we have tab templates, which are the creation of my colleague Jesse Zlotov, who's sitting in the back. and they allow us to have very easy transitions between our top line, our most raw and complete data, into a frequency questionnaire that is what the clients look at, and then to go into the crosstabs, and we can use much of that programming with a different tab template that does our 2 or 3 different kinds of time series that we run, which is a very easy thing to set up and edit. And then if the tab template's not perfect, we can then very simply just change it. I would imagine most people who are using Analyze a lot are using tab templates. I'm guessing that we probably use it, have more templates than most. Clones, which we might be the only people using clones. We needed to be able to come up with a way in Analyze to click on a variable and make a table pop up exactly as we want it. You can do it to create a complete table, or to create just to add one question into the rows. They're easy to create, they're easy to save, and they're a snap to use once you've got it. Once you figure out what you're doing and have that created, they're a snap to use. So let me just show you a little bit about each of those and show you what some of the challenge was. So if you look at this, I've taken a bit of a sample from a questionnaire from last April. You have this approval question here, where, as you'll see, there's a total approval and total disapprove, and then a difference between the two. And we want that every single time. We ask this question all the time. Maybe like half our political surveys have an approval question in it, or maybe 3 or 4. And we know that every time we ask it, it's got to be there and in that exact format. For pretty much every book we run has it in that exact format. And then we have thermometers, which we're always going to have. Thermometers are in most of our surveys, and we need this display. And for the frequency questionnaire, which this is what every client from the least engaged to the most, every client's reading the frequency questionnaire. It doesn't matter how savvy they are. Everyone wants to see everyone can look at percentages, and everyone wants to see it. So there's some variation in frequency questionnaires, and then on the next page you'll see party ID. And when I show you the KES, which I need to open up, when I show you the KES, you'll see that this party ID is actually 3 questions combined into one. If they're Democrat or Republican, then if they're strong or weak, and if they're not, whether they lean towards one party. And as you can see here, that's how we display it in just its simplest form. So someone who says they're not a Democrat or Republican, but actually leans towards Democrat, they pop up in what appears always as the third punch. That is every time we do party ID, it is that way. And if we have to do any work to make party ID happen, then the software doesn't work for us. It has to be that easy. And then if you look, you see here, there's only just this one total row. But also sometimes we want our frequency questionnaire to have total white and black, or total and likely voter, or maybe even no total at all, because we're doing 2 completely different universes that don't combine in any meaningful way. So we'll have to do it like that. And here you'll see for the thermometer, the punches, because it's a loop, the punches go across the top. And this time they wanted different punches for this one. So the punches are across the top, but we have the total in the white and the black. And this looks the same with the 3 columns. But then you go over to crosstabs. If I make it to there, the party ID is done not just, there we go, is done not just as the combined 8 points, but also we do the 232 party ID and the 313 party ID. So that the 232 is just the top 2, the bottom 2, the middle 3 is how we separate it up, and the 313 is everyone who associates with the Democrats is called a Democrat. And we use that throughout. Now, the way we currently do it, this is from last April, the way we currently do it, we've come up with a way to combine that all into one table so that it doesn't have to take up the space of 3 when it's all saying the same thing. And if I go back to hopefully page 26 is actually the right page this time. If we go back, you can see the job approval looks the same as it did in the frequency questionnaire, except for some of the formatting differences where there it was in bold and now it's separated out. And we have this table that ranks the thermometer means. most of the time we're not ranking things, but in this situation we do want to rank the thermometers, and then below it we have the full details on each candidate. So we have to be able to do that all the time, and we have to be able to do, as I say, in October we have to be able to do 20 surveys a week. Probably, some nights we might have 10 surveys ending or 8 surveys starting, and so the most important thing in our world is to be able to do it quickly. So let me just show you a bit about how this all works. So we have our library set up, which was already existed before all of the Design 5.2 was created. So we had all the questions in, but the issues that we were having was that you couldn't customize them. You couldn't drag in a created variable very easily because the routings don't associate naturally in that format. And you can't drag in, if you have a vote, we'll always ask the vote. I'll show you that in my cast. I created this fake vote. So if someone wants, as you may know, in November there will be an election for mayor of Paris. If the election were held today and the candidates were Ray Nagin and Jerome Sopico, who would you vote for? A tough choice, I would say. So we will always ask that first question, and then we're always going to ask the second question to force the issue, and once again get leaners. Now in the past, we would have to manually create a new question and write in those variables, and we'd have to copy in the long caption, and we'd have to copy in the short caption, and that's not the most manageable way to do it. So instead, what we do is we can go in and copy the programming in that we have our standard programming to that we have the standard programming that copies in and makes those questions come out exactly how we want them to. So let me show, I'll show a couple things that are in our Design 5.2 library, which we can probably lose the test on the label by now because we've been using it for a number of months. So you see the party ID. Now, the easy part of this is that the remote, as I was saying, there's a remote kind and a name-based kind. The name-based kind is very easy to see. You see it says dash party ID there, or hyphen party ID, and that means it's going to look for a party ID question and just, and if it exists, it's going to say, okay, we're going to base that part of the routings off of party ID. Previous to this, there was no way to base a routing off an existing question. So then it's going to just fill in, create these variables with these names and with those as the punches. So I should be able to hit party ID, copy the routings, and go right there, hit paste structure, and bam, that part worked easily. I'm not closing that. So now we have these 3 new questions that came straight from the library, and the routings are based off of the party ID questions. Can show also, now that I have this, I think I have this set up to work. I have this entire library of demos. Previously, we would have to create a special question called bgender that we would then manually set a rounding off of gender, but now I can copy that, and assuming all of the demos are set up properly, which they're not, but if they were set up properly, that whole folder would just pop up as is. The most fun one is the remote-based, which is very hard to read because it's got a lot of complicated routings in it that work exceptionally well. That you have the vote question and the follow-up question, which these are just references to us, and those numbers here that where it says %s and %2 refer to is the programming that it will later refer to, so it knows what questions and what direction it's looking at. So if I go up to my fake vote, and I believe if I paste it there, I think so. If I paste it there, you can see that it's now got Ray Nagin and Jerome Sopico, and this has the question based off the fake vote F, and this one is the same long caption as the fake vote has. So that is our design side. Now let me show you a bit from Analyze. One of the hard things to decide is what to do in design and what to do in Analyze, and we haven't figured out a perfect system, and we know that Analyze variables the more Analyze variables you create, sometimes it'll slow Analyze down. but sometimes it's a lot easier to make them in analyze. So that's one of the battles we're always fighting. So I showed the approval question before. We don't touch that at all in design because we don't really like adding too many unnecessary routings and too many unnecessary variables. I'll be able to, so to show that the approval variable we were shown before, all I have to do right now is hit clone analysis, fdis4, and it creates this new portfolio. Now, if I had a portfolio, it would just add a table to the portfolio. And as you see here, it's all created for you. The difference is there, the sums are there. Now it creates that as a new tab in the top lines general template, though the top lines general I think is my default right now. It's a very simple way of just getting exactly what you want. And we've created a bunch of different clones for a bunch of what we do. We have the thermometers right here. So with the ID and the warm and the cool already built in, and thermometers down here. And I was also saying that the tab templates, which we've gotten a ton of use out of. So we have the top lines, which is what we send to the analyst for proofing. So the main thing we use is top lines general. And these are all just our internal creations. And so we have all these different ones for the FQ and for the banner book. I showed you the table where the tables were, the thermometer means were sorted. There's one right here called banner battery means. And you can see that this is the basic setup of it, and it'll sort descending automatically. Now, if we didn't want it sorted this one time, I could turn that off. And if we have a mean, you can go in and change, like, you can very easily just change the number of digits after the decimal point so that, in this case, we wanted 1 decimal point. So you can change that. And that is the way we managed to make books with all of these different kinds of books using the same exact programming and not have to recreate it do the same programming every time, because I think we would all go a little insane if we had to continually do all of these things. But in this way, we can have the speed necessary to get through. Jerome has added some copying, being able to copy variables from one version of Analyze to another, which has been really important. And the other thing we use a lot of is the languages, so that the long format of a question doesn't have to be used from wave to wave. We use, for our crosstabs, we use Zulu, because we don't think we're ever fielding a survey in Zulu. It could happen, but if so, then we'll just pretend that it's some other language that we've yet to use so far. So that's been another wonderful tool for us, and it allows us to get the analysts involved to do things that we don't really want to do. The more easy functions there are that we can hand off, the better we can do our job. I think that's about all I have right now. So questions are till the end, you say?
Yeah, question in the end, if that's all right. Thank you very much.
Yes.